Hey, I'm Lisa Singer, and thanks for joining us for another installment of Media Post webinar series, where we bring together the media, marketing, and advertising community to learn more about the methods and technologies that really make business possible across a variety of categories. Now, today we're going to explore how AI is transforming the way marketers plan, optimize, and measure media performance, enabling teams to make faster, smarter decisions that drive stronger outcomes. We'll also discuss real-world examples and practical strategies for building smarter workflows that increase efficiency and impact across the media landscape. Now, before I introduce our guest speakers today, I want to let you know that we are going to provide a question and answer session at the end of the discussion. So if you have any questions for either of our speakers, just write it in the box on your screen, and we'll do our best to answer them. So with that said, let me introduce Geoffrey Fuglaar. He is the Digital Media Director at Roux Advertising, and Dan Hammond, the Senior Account Executive at Digital Remedy. Welcome, Dan and Geoffrey. Hey.
Hello.
Hey, thank you so much for having us.
Well, I'm so happy to have you guys. I'm very excited for this. Obviously, AI is something that everyone wants to hear about, and especially in terms of the topic that you guys are going to get into. But before we do that, just tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization. Geoffrey, why don't we start with you?
Sure. Hi, I'm Geoffrey Fuglaar. I'm the Digital Media Director at Roux Advertising. My job is to really streamline the systems and processes of our digital media practice. So we're a very small agency and we only handle media. We have a whole side of the business that is traditional media, and I head up the whole digital practice for us.
Okay, Dan?
Yep. And again, Dan Hammond with Digital Remedy. So I'm a senior account executive based in Austin, Texas. A lot of my job is working with agencies and brands, working with people like Geoffrey to help plan, execute, and measure programmatic multimedia campaigns across different tactics. So very happy to be here. Thank you so much.
All right, well, great. So because we want everyone to know who they're listening to and why you guys are actually experts in this. Well, okay, so first of all, let's really sort of dive into how AI is changing the way we plan and optimize campaigns. So Geoffrey, I want to start with you. Now, I know that Roux has been on the cutting edge of AI. You've really been implementing it early on. So what are you using, or how are you using it to optimize performance and reporting?
So for us, the Digital Remedy products that we have access to, it's integrated directly into our dashboards. So what it's allowed us to do is work really, really quickly. A lot of agencies are really under a lot of tight margins, both from time and money and all of the things. So from a reporting standpoint, what it allows us to do is chat like you're talking to a real person. And I come from larger agencies where we've had like a full suite of analytics people that would basically do this entire job for us. But what's nice about having this integration is that we have a starting point for a lot of our reports. And when you can start faster, you can finish faster and produce more. So that's been really, really valuable for us to have that direct integration to everything.
Well, and Dan, as Geoffrey just mentioned, it's just becoming much more efficient in their reporting. So how is your AI-powered solution helping that in terms of their media planning?
Yeah, so kind of echoing Geoffrey's sentiment, that's really the great thing about our AI tool is it was built from the ground up with agencies in mind. We wanted feedback from agencies. What headaches were they dealing with that AI could potentially help with? So really, like Geoffrey mentioned, streamlining efficiencies, allowing their teams to operate with maybe a limited headcount, but operate as a big agency because they're able to focus on more strategic tasks, let the AI tool do a little bit more of that quick analysis, have those metrics at your fingertips quickly so you can make more informed decisions quickly as the campaign's running. And like you mentioned, having that built in directly into our platform is hugely beneficial. So they always have access to all those metrics in real time.
Got it. And so, I mean, with like everything, there's always going to be challenges, especially when you're just starting something. What, Geoffrey, have you faced? What kind of challenges have you had to navigate, especially when we're hearing so much about AI clutter and, any other thing that you might have faced?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different things that we had. So related to the AI clutter, we get approached all the time with people who have the latest AI solution or it's going to do this or whatever. And we really had to take a step back and understand what were some true business problems that we were facing at the agency. And for us, we're a very lean team. So it's always going to be related to who is going to work on what and how are we going to get the work product out the door. So we kind of started with that, and reporting was one of those things that was like, it was a bog. It was getting bottlenecked. There wasn't a dedicated person to actually kind of help us with all of this. So when we wanted to integrate AI into something, that felt like the natural fit. And it just so happened that Digital Remedy was inventing all of this stuff, and they invited us to be a beta tester for it. Which brings me to my next problem with things is that when you are beta testing anything, there are going to be issues with it. But we had a really great collaborative relationship to it. They invited me to push the tool as much as possible and ask it crazy questions and really like try to get in there and break it, honestly, so that they could figure out what was going to go wrong with it and before they rolled it out to other people. So I was very appreciative of that, and it was also like kind of fun just to see like what I could challenge it with and what it would come back with. So that was fun.
Yeah. Well, you talk about, other solutions came to you and all had the best, next best thing. And then, but, Digital Remedy was able to come in and actually make a difference. Dan, how do you separate yourself? Like, what is it that Digital Remedy offers that is the biggest advantage for Roux?
Well, I think it's funny because biggest part of our pitch is transparency. And I think that was a big part with our AI tool as well, was giving them the insight of, hey, we want your feedback as much as possible. The great part about AI tools is they're constantly evolving and optimizing themselves, but we really wanted to have that human element and hear from an agency like Roux of what is this doing well? Where is this helping you out? What can we work on, or new features we can create that would kind of take it to the next level? So it was really invaluable to have that insight from Roux and Geoffrey to help kind of guide as this product evolves. So I think the transparency of having access to all that data and what the tool can and can't do. And then I would say the other thing is the flexibility, having the ability to really add those different widgets and different customization aspects based on the feedback we were getting. So we can be nimble, we can be flexible based on what's needed. I think were two really big benefits for our AI tool in particular.
And it sounds like collaboration is the key word here, that you both sort of learn from each other and move forward with each other. Before we get into specifics with Roux, Dan, do you have any real use cases from your Insights platform that you can share?
Sure. A couple that kind of come to mind was, and it's a similar story to Roux, of there was an agency I work with out of Austin who had a limited analytics team. And so their support staff was spending so much time pulling reports, going through the analytics, trying to find different anomalies and things to pull a report. They adopted this AI tool to kind of help with that. And what they found was it wasn't just being able to pull reports quicker, but because of the AI intuitiveness, it was providing them with more insights of, hey, take a look at this audience that you might not be considering is actually crushing it based on your metrics, and can get a little bit deeper into which publishers are performing a lot better. So I think what's great about it, or the feedback we've got from other clients, is the ability to either stay high level if you just want a delivery report, knows what's going on, but also it lets you get as into the weeds or as granular as you want, depending on what you're looking for at the time.
Yeah. So now, Geoffrey, turning to you, how were you able to leverage that automation in terms of for smarter workflows, maybe where you really saw that measurable impact?
Yeah, for us, it really helped to just to start as like a place to begin with reporting. We noticed that our staff was having a hard time just like knowing where to even begin with a month over month or quarterly report. So what it does really well for us is give us that kind of outline, and then it will also start to point to different things month over month if we're seeing traction on something or if something is underperforming. And then from there, the team can take the human aspect of it and start to dive into it a little bit more. So when we were able to get things started and get them moving a lot faster, everything was so bottlenecked, and it let it all go. So we were able to get into a smarter workflow really because of that, and because this tool is really informing that. We also have some more junior staff, and they're just, kind of breaking into the industry, and we actually use it as a teaching tool in a lot of ways too. So it's a good place, like I always say, to start with the information. So if I'm busy or whatever's going on, I'll say, go talk to the bot and see what's happening over there and see what you can figure out. And then they'll come back to me and we'll ask it questions, and we'll figure out questions to ask together. And I think it's really helping to start train them to think about, the larger context of how a campaign is running, applying more critical thinking skills instead of just trusting exactly what comes out of it, but trying to get into the crux of what we're doing and what we're trying to do.
Well, and I think humanizing it is so key. And it sounds like go ask your mother, but instead go ask your bot.
Right.
But and we know when you're talking about the different teams working together, and especially when you talk tech and creative, they don't always align necessarily. So how do they need to collaborate in order to really apply those insights in real time?
I think this is a huge opportunity for full service agencies. So I'm only on the media agency side, but I've worked at full service agencies before where creative was so much in a silo. And I think if you have access to this tool, you can talk to it just like a person, and you don't necessarily have to have a media planning and buying background. You can just ask it questions for how your creative is doing. So if this tool were to be rolled out to full service agencies, I think let everybody have access to it and talk to it and see how the media is actually performing. And then you can bring in the specialists. So you're preserving your media team's time while you're also informing the creative team for how their campaigns are actually going. I think that's really valuable for agencies.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Dan.
I was just going to say, to kind of piggyback off of that, I think a lot of that has to do with what we were talking about before, of having the human element and the tech AI element working in tandem. I think it can kind of be a worry or misconception of, is AI going to eliminate the need for traders or for creative folks? And I really think it's more of you don't need to worry about AI taking those jobs. You need to worry about somebody who knows how to use those tools better than you taking that job. So kind of just those two things working in tandem, I think can help creative teams, media buying teams. It's all kind of a yin and yang between the human element and the tech element.
Yeah, and I love that, that you mentioned, Geoffrey, as far as even training your newer employees, people, like it's helpful there, and making your time more efficient. Hey, I don't need to take the time for these little things, go to the bot. So right. Obviously we're seeing those kind of advantages. Geoffrey talked about the differences in, say, his agency and a full service agency. How about, Dan, an agency to a brand? Like, how are they able to adopt, is there a difference in how they adopt AI?
Yeah, I think that there's a big difference between agencies and brands, but even a step further, different agencies are going to use it in different ways, different brands are going to use it in different ways. So having a tool that's really flexible and able to adapt to what that specific entity needs. I think brands in particular, when we're working with brand directs, again, team size can be tough. You're asking, I feel like more time goes on, you're asking people to do a lot more with a lot less resources. So these tools become critical in order to stay efficient and able to meet those deadlines. And I think with brand directs, that's more true than ever, because they might not be as versed as an ad agency when you're asking them about CPAs and CPMs, and having a tool similar like what Geoffrey was talking about with the training element, that you can ask questions, get answers, and learn a little bit more about advertising in general. I think it's essential for those types of teams in a brand direct sense.
Yeah, no, I understand in terms of, I mean, especially, Geoffrey, when you look at your own needs, and you sort of talked about that and the difference of what you needed for as opposed to a full service agency. As a beta, are you sort of taking that step at a time? Like, how much of that do you sort of, okay, let's try here, then here, like talk about sort of your the steps that you took in order to get to where you are.
The process for breaking it.
That's a much better way to say it.
So yeah, so I mean, that was really what we tried to do. We tried to ask it, as many questions as we could think of and see what the information would come back with. So a big part of how we were, adopting this to begin with, because it was a new workflow for everybody, myself included, is that we wanted to ask it questions that maybe we would get from our clients or things that we just really wanted to know. And then we would trust but verify as much as possible with the data. So every time it would give us responses, at least in the beginning, we would be like, okay, is that right? And so for a while, there was this period where we were essentially doing a little bit of double work, but it paid out in spades later on. It was so helpful, once we got that workflow established. But definitely as a beta tester, we had to be very cautious to begin with and make sure that the results and the responses we were getting were what we wanted.
Yeah, and it sounds like it really democratizes your group, in terms of there's no, you're with the newer employees in terms of that learning. And it really seems like by humanizing it, you're teaching it the organization's needs or the organization's beliefs. And that's how you move forward in order to do it where it's going to be most successful for you.
Yeah, and at the same time, that was part of the training tool or part of the training process as well, because when I had newer employees, they would ask me why I was asking specific questions of it. So it would open up conversations about what I was doing and why I was actually doing what I was doing. What a sentence.
I'm curious, Dan, were these things that you knew kind of going in, or as you experience it with Geoffrey, then it's like, wow, we're doing this too, we're doing this, and you're seeing just how much benefit it offers?
I would say it's more of the latter. AI is kind of this new frontier and everyone's got their fancy new AI capability. And so getting that feedback was invaluable and seeing how they were interacting with the tool, so that we can take that and not only build out the tool, but help explain it to other agencies that are interested in having to evaluate all this different AI clutter. Having those examples of, hey, this is what a client of ours is using it for. This is how they interact with it, because the beauty about one of the best things about AI is the more you're interacting with it, the more it's learning you and how to respond to you and what you're looking for. So having that information out the gate from this partnership with Roux agreeing to be our beta tester really helped us model where the tool can evolve, and how to best leverage it for other partners.
Makes sense. Okay, well, I have another question for you guys, but before that, I just want to remind the audience, if you do have a question for either Geoffrey or Dan, please remember you can put it in the box on your screen, and we will do our best at the end to answer them for you. Okay, so just looking at anything, as you talked about, it's a learning, you've been learning things as you go, you're teaching AI as well. So Geoffrey, just what are the key learnings? What are your key takeaways from everything that you've been doing that really stand out to you?
I would say trust but verify was definitely something that we want to pass on. I think that everybody has this kind of trepidatious behavior with AI right now. Like they will ask it questions, but ask it to cite its source, all of that stuff. It wasn't, I don't know if it was necessarily a learning, but it was surprising to see, at least in the early stages, what it would come back with. But when we started to ask it more questions, you could sort of see the reasoning behind it too. And because of that, it started to train it a little bit better and get a little bit better with the models as we went along. So really, that's my biggest takeaway from it, is just making sure that you are using it for what it is, but applying the human element as well later on, because you can't just trust things willy-nilly.
Very true. And Dan, for you, you talked about how you were learning with, as Roux was being beta tested, you were learning from that. What's the most surprising thing you learned, or the thing that you really are taking away that, wow, this is really valuable?
Something that kind of came out of that amongst our beta testers was that's now one of the features we hear the most raves about, is we came up with a custom prompt list, so that instead of having to from scratch learn how to ask this question, and if I'm trying to get that, you can do all that, but we also added an element of, hey, if you want a particular publisher report, just click this button and we can fill that prompt to ask exactly how the AI model will understand efficiently. So just another kind of step to make it more efficient, user-friendly, and easy to use. that I think was one of the biggest kind of takeaways that we've gotten very positive reviews since implementing that feature.
Well, Geoffrey, I could see you very much shaking your head when he was talking about that. So
I was going to echo that. It was super helpful because when you're first starting to work with a bot like this, because you can talk to it like a person, but it's not a person, you can't really get an understanding of what it knows and what it doesn't know. So when you have that prompt list right there, you're like, oh, great, I can just click this and it will spit out the thing that I want. But when we were first starting to work with it, I was kind of like, had a little bit of paralysis. I was like, hello? What do I say to this thing? So it was very helpful just to start to get that, and then you could see actually what you could get out of the system and how it could be beneficial that way.
yeah, do you want to yell at it? I mean, I have like conversations and really have arguments with my AI. So.
Well, when it takes over, I want it to remember how polite I was.
Oh no, mine's just sorry. Okay, I have to ask you in terms of looking ahead, where do you see AI, or how do you see AI transforming the media space, even say 5 years from now? I mean, we've seen such changes just in the last few years. What are you seeing in the future or hope to see? Again, we can start with you, Geoffrey.
Sure. So I can't take credit for this analogy, but I really like it a lot. And somebody equated AI to when the iPad was first invented, and nobody really knew what to do with it when it first came out. It was just a giant iPhone and nobody knew how to apply it. But now it's living in the dashboard of a car, it's at a coffee shop, it's at all of these places, and it's changed the way that we interact with the world around us. So I think that AI right now, we're feeling kind of almost like a whiplash effect from it because it feels like it's being shoved into everything. And what we're going to see later on, I think in the industry, is what Dan said earlier, is people that know how to interact with the tool itself, people that know how to use an iPad, people that know what the interface actually is and how they can apply it to the jobs that already exist right now and that aren't really going to go anywhere, but it is going to change how you do your job and the amount of work that you can produce and the speed at which you can produce. What that actually looks like, I don't know. I don't think anybody could have predicted that an iPad would be in a car. So that's sort of where we're at right now. We're just being like, well, where's it going to go next, I guess.
Dan, how about yourself?
I was going to say, piggybacking off of that, to Geoffrey's point, I do think it's a new frontier, and you know, you can ask 10 different people, where do we see it going in 5 years, and you'll probably get 10 different answers. Something that in the very near future we're actually rolling out, and I think it's kind of good representative of where things are going, is we've talked a lot on this call about the AI in terms of the measurement aspect, but we're actually rolling out in our Echo platform an AI tool across the whole tech stack. So from planning and strategizing, having a particular tool, from optimizing and campaign performance, and then the measurement. Because I think it can sound like all AI, excuse me, AI is AI, but the truth is different AI tools are created to do different things. And so you got to find the right one for what you're trying to accomplish. So as time goes on, I think you're going to see it incorporated into much more across the whole buying cycle, and just more integrated into these tech stacks. So it's more and more important to get in now and start learning these tools, because they're not going away. They're only going to become more ingrained in not only advertising, but just our lives in general. So I think that's just going to continue to be more and more the case, and more important to understand these things.
Yeah, no, even when you think a couple of years back, people wanting to bury their head in the sand and just they were afraid of it. And I think we're getting more people now embracing it. It's not going anywhere, but it is, to your point, very important that you learn and move forward. And Geoffrey, you even got in there with everyone taking the chance with your team. So, all right, so we do have some questions that we have for you guys. So let me see. All right, we have from Michael. Is this AI mainly for analytics, Google type campaigns? Is it different than the AI assistant for OTT, CTV campaigns? So we got two questions there. Who wants to take that?
I can probably field that. A lot of the tool that we're talking about today, our Scout AI tool, is analytics based. So As Digital Remedy, we're a managed service programmatic partner. So what this tool specifically does is in our platform, we've always have full transparency. You can access all these different campaign metrics. And so this tool in particular, if it's an OTT report like you're asking about, you can gear it and ask it about that. But really, it's just across all tactics, across our whole platform, whatever kind of analytics you're looking to dig into, it has the ability to pull that data from the platform and give you the information you're looking for. But like I mentioned before, as in the we progress, this AI tool is going to be across the planning, strategizing, and the whole tech suite. But the one today was very analytics based.
Got it. Okay, we have another question from Paul. What are the media data sets provided by Digital Remedy?
The media data sets, this might not be the answer you're looking for, but as my understanding is, it basically the data sets we're utilizing are from our Echo platform tech stack. So any campaigns and metrics that are integrated into our platform, the AI tool is pulling from that information, and it's doing that across campaigns. So if it's seeing that certain targeting factors are working well on a particular vertical, it can use that insights from others to basically pull into and make recommendations of, hey, we've seen this work well across our campaigns. Based on the metrics that we're seeing on your campaign, we would recommend implementing this change. And because it's a predictive tool, you can actually ask it, if I were to make this change, what would you project the metrics to adapt and change to? So it can kind of show you, hey, this is how we foresee the campaign performing if you were to implement this change. So roundabout answer, I don't know if that's answers you about data sets, but that's where the AI tool is pulling that information from.
Got it. Okay, so we have another question from Sarah. So how can marketers distinguish between AI hype and practical application? And Geoffrey, since you actually had the practical application, I'd love to hear your answer.
Yeah, we ran into this a lot, and I understand where you're coming from with that too. There's a lot of hype around like how AI it sounds like a silver bullet for a lot of things. And I think, one of the biggest things we tried to do was just try to see if people were just promising too much, and if it just made no sense of what it could do. Like if you're going to tell me it's going to predict economic outcomes later on, what are you talking about? Like, wouldn't Halliburton be doing that? Not an ad agency. So I think that, we started to just, use our heads and go with our guts with a lot of things. And, the other side of that was like trying to use it to solve real problems that we were having at our agency. So my specific problem was that reporting was getting bottlenecked. We needed staff to work on other projects, but we still needed to deliver reporting. So when I was approached with an AI tool that could deliver reporting, I was like, great, let's try that out and let's see. It's a very specific task. It's a very specific thing that it can do. Let's see what that looks like. And then from there, once we started to trust it, we started to roll it out like into the training process, or we've rolled it out to clients so that they have access to it now. So I think that once you kind of see what that little specific problem is and it can solve that, then it opens the doors to other things and you can start to think how it can be applied later on.
Got it. Okay, so we have another question here from Suzanne, and she is asking, is this AI offering unique from other DSPs like the Trade Desk or DV360?
So great question. It's very similar, but these all kind of operate in different ways. Kind of like I was saying before, different AI tools have different bells and whistles. So like the prompt assist is something that is, to my knowledge, unique to us. The ability, I think the challenge you run into on some of those bigger platforms with their AI tools, like the Trade Desk, is when there's something that you would like for it to do or to have that it doesn't right now. With those big platforms, it's tough to get that integrated into the roadmap and have those changes. Where I think our tool kind of differentiates ourselves and where Digital Remedy kind of thrives in general is we're nimble enough that when you have that unique request for the AI tool, we can actually get engineers working on that and add functionality, add features to cater and adapt to what you're looking for. But that being said, they are similar tools of they're pulling from the analytics from the platform to make realizations and analyze that data to come out with tangible, meaningful metrics that you can use to optimize campaigns.
Great. And we have actually, this is for Geoffrey. What reports, and this is again from Michael earlier, what reports were you pulling out of the tool? Were they search/display campaigns?
They were display, online video, and connected TV. It hasn't been integrated fully into our search campaigns yet. So we do have visualization capabilities, but the AI tool itself hasn't been integrated into search campaigns. So it was really just all of like DSP-based reporting.
Got it. And we have time for one more question. So this is from Dana. How will AI shape client agency collaboration, which we sort of talked about earlier, moving forward? So that's a good note to kind of wrap it up with.
I can kick it off, and I think we've all said it a couple times, but I think it's important to not solely rely on the AI tech. There needs to be that human element. So I think that collaboration between vendors and agencies and clients, that clear communication of what's expected, what you're looking for, and then once that's kind of ironed out and everyone's on the same page with, then you go in and you can utilize that AI tool to accomplish that objective. But it's a nice harmony, I think, between the human element and the tech element to kind of have that collaborative relationship for the tool's functionality.
Do you want to add anything, Geoffrey?
Yeah, on the agency side, I will just quote one of my favorite clients saying that, oh my God, I love this because at 4:30 on a Friday, I don't want to ask anybody anything and I can just ask it this. So we've rolled it out to our clients. So far, they've been pretty receptive to it because it does have that functionality to it if they have a quick question and they don't want to email us, or they just somebody's coming down the hall and they have to answer something really quickly. They can use the tool for that benefit as well. So I don't think it will replace the service that agencies provide to their clients, because at some level we still have to provide optimizations and explaining things beyond that. But I do think that it's bridging the gap between all of this siloed knowledge that agencies have always had and the access that clients now have to that knowledge themselves.
Great. Well, you guys, this was awesome. Thank you so much. It was such a great discussion. Really appreciate you taking the time. So thank you. And also for those watching, if you have any other questions for Dan or Geoffrey, you can reach out to them directly at their emails. And that is for Geoffrey. It's Geoffrey, Geoffrey, at Roux, ROUX, advertising.com. And for Dan, it's Hammond, HAMMOND, at digitalremedy.com. So feel free to reach out to them. They can help you with anything else that you might have a question about. And again, thank you so much, Geoffrey and Dan. You guys were amazing. So if you want to thank people take a second here.
Thank you guys so much for having us. Thank everyone for tuning in. Hope it was helpful. And like Lisa said, feel free to reach out with any questions. Love geeking out about this stuff. So anything you want to ask, feel free.
Ditto. Thanks.
Yeah, a few words. Okay, thank you, Geoffrey. And thank you again for joining us for another edition of Media Post webinar series. Until next time.